Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Pole Position Podcast. This is episode 3 for the 2021 F1 season, and we are going to be reviewing a very action-packed Imola Grand Prix. My guest today is of course Jamie Davies. Now Jamie, me and you did a watch-along of the race on the Let's Talk Sport YouTube channel, and I was just about to say, I say action-packed. It was action-packed, chaotic. There was a red flag. We had to talk during the red flag to keep the watch-along going. What would you say in regards to your first initial thoughts of the Imola Grand Prix that we watched?
More of that.
Yeah, for the rest of the season. Yeah.
For the rest of the season, but no, it did feel like you could see a big race coming when you saw the weather. And people having different tyres and not having the tyres that you'd need in wet tracks. So that to me was when I expected something to happen. But I think overall I've completely forgotten that Verstappen won the race.
Yeah.
Because of what happened before it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, he sort of dominated the race, to be honest, didn't he? Obviously overtook Lewis Hamilton at the start. They both sort of touched, and Hamilton went over the sort of sausage curbs, as it were, on the turn 2. And then from that point on, Max Verstappen was sort of in a world of his own. I know there was like a safety car and a couple of red flags. Obviously had to stop the race and restart again. But he was sort of in the world of his own and looked like the Red Bull, as it were, that is meant to be the fastest car of the grid this season.
I think they needed to get this one Red Bull because Bahrain, I think, hurt them because of what we saw, that Verstappen was, if I can remember, he was quickest in every session apart from winning the race on the Sunday. So I think for them they had to get something to forget about the race before and cover the cracks. And Verstappen was absolutely phenomenal. I thought he was really quick.
Yeah.
There was so many moments where, I mean, look, okay, yes, people can say it's probably because you've got the two best cars that you saw Hamilton and Verstappen get fastest laps every time and keep responding to each other, and then it was Hamilton who got it at the end, so he won that at least. But it was just the fact that when you've got tough conditions, you've got a track that's not easy to go around at all, even when it's not wet, as we saw in qualifying, a lot of deleted laps. But we also saw that with these two drivers, they are ready to push it to the limit regardless. And I think Verstappen proved why he is the number one contender to stop Hamilton. Because I don't think there's anyone else out on that track that can do it. I don't think Prix can do it in a Red Bull either. I don't think, Bottas has proven that he can't do it in a Mercedes. Why would he do it this season? We'll talk more, I'm sure, about him in a bit, but it says to me that for once, Hamilton might actually have an actual championship contender.
Yeah,
since Rosberg. Yeah,
and I was going to say they both battled it out on that first couple of turns. Max gave him no space at that corner when they both touched. It's interesting actually when you watch it that they did the race sort of questions at the end. In like the press conference, both of them were sort of, Hamilton said, "Oh, we touched on that corner," and Max again, "I don't think we touched," and Hamilton went, "Oh yeah, we did touch." So you can already see there's sort of like this
did
tension.
they? It looked like they. Well, no, they must have done because of the flooring and
I think
Hamilton's car.
I think Max sort of took as much room as he possible, and obviously Lewis ran out of road, as it were, so he had to go on the thing. But like Lewis was saying, "Well, we touched slightly," and Max was going, "Oh well, I don't think we did touch." So it's like the second race in, and they're already getting a little bit sort of touchy in their sort of press conference words, and I was just thinking,
which we need.
Yes, I was just thinking, come on, this is what we've been waiting for. But I think again it's interesting because obviously we'll talk a little bit about Hamilton, going from looking like he was out, like you said in the watch along, that we were already showing the screen of his DNF. And then somehow he managed to reverse it out of the gravel and get back out onto the track and go from 9th, I think, when he came back onto the track, to obviously having the red flag, which obviously I think benefited Lewis Hamilton. And then obviously going on to finish in second, getting that fastest lap point. So now he's only, I think Verstappen's 1 point off Lewis Hamilton. I think he's still in the lead by 1 point. So already it's getting, that 1 point could be vital for Lewis Hamilton. And I know we're only 2 races in, but hopefully it's going to turn into that where that's why they were fighting so much for that fastest lap, surely.
You see, that's the thing, because the race had so much in it, I completely forgot about it until you mentioned it, was the first corner, which was Red Verstappen not giving up on the place, which, let's not forget, he started third as well. So you would have thought Prez would have had the advantage going on to turn one to challenge Hamilton. Instead, Prez didn't go in at all for it. Was that because of his tyres? I'm not sure. Did he have a bad start on the starting grid? I don't know. But this is when you will have more experience in Verstappen when it comes to front row racing, because Verstappen's done it for the last 2, 3, 4 seasons. His first ever race win was 5 years ago, and then his second ever race win was in 2017. So, he's used to being up there. While Perez, we will always say he is the number 2 driver, even though he outqualified Verstappen on Saturday, which, we'll talk more about Perez later, but we need this. We really do. And me and Jack always stress that we're not Hamilton haters. We're proud of Hamilton for the fact that for British motorsport, he's the most successful driver ahead of the likes of, Damon Hill, Graham Hill, and, John Surtees, etc., where, we've got ourselves someone that's the best in F1 possibly. But I just think after a while, you go through periods where it's the same results and you want to see something different. We've seen it from Schumacher's era, we've seen it from Vettel's era, and we're now seeing it with Hamilton's era.
Yeah, and like I said, I totally agree. It's not that we dislike Hamilton, it's just that we want something. We want him to be, to truly say he's one of the best. We want him to be in competition every single week. We want him to be pushed every race to the limit, and hopefully this season is something we're going to get. So obviously Lewis Hamilton, gets that second place, is sort of getting the points, and I think that's another one thing that Max Verstappen obviously has to do this season, is that even if Lewis Hamilton looks like he's going to miss out on points or looks like he's going to be out of a race, you can never count on that for Max Verstappen. He's got to try and win every single race, because Lewis Hamilton very rarely loses out on any points.
Well, I mean, it said it all, didn't it? Hamilton had all sorts of moments, and we even had a graphic come up on the screen from Formula One feed saying how many DNFs he's had. And I'm thinking, as the F1 production team just completely underestimated Hamilton, and thinking, I mean, we all thought he was out. I even screamed it on the watch along before you saw it, saying Hamilton's out, and then commentary curse came in. So that didn't help. But that as you mentioned the other day, Verstappen will look on the podium and just go, he's here, damn it. Again. Which I'm sure deep down he applauded him, but when it comes to the championship, you don't want him on the same podium as you. And if you can get those opportunities, you've got to take them. Absolutely. Because Hamilton is the most hard-working driver when it comes to a race where it's not going to be his race, but he'll make sure it's the best race he can get out of it.
Absolutely, he maximises every single point possible, and I think that's the issue for Max Verstappen this year, because he does miss out on a few DNFs, whether it be reliability or whether he crashes out. So that's something that needs to be ironed out at Red Bull. Quick point on Sergio Perez then, his teammate. Did qualify second, obviously went out on the softer compound tyre to get that second place, but just wasn't his race. Obviously Christian Horner said it, and Sergio Perez came out and said it afterwards as well, that he still obviously needs time to get used to this Red Bull. It's a completely different thing. For so many years he's been at Racing Point or Force India. It's a completely new thing to be at Red Bull now, a different way that the car drives. I think Daniel Ricciardo's having the same thing, Vettel's having the same thing at Aston Martin. You've got to get used to the new car, but did have a few spins, didn't he? Had a couple of issues in terms of that car during the race weekend. He's still got more to learn at Red Bull at the minute.
I think thank goodness Bahrain's race was good at the end.
Yeah.
Always we'd probably talk about his qualifying more from Bahrain. So at least I'd say he's had a balance of one good weekend, one bad weekend. Because it's weird, you can have a bad weekend and then race day could be the opposite, and it ends up being a good weekend despite your preparations for the race. So I think for Perez, look, he was unfortunate. I think it's just sad that he was one of those like George Russell and Bottas and Hamilton, where he got on the wet side of the track and lost the grip, and that was it. The moment he got down to 14th, I was confident he could get into top 10 just because he's got the car, but it's not easy when you've got two world champions in front of you as well. He got past Vettel at one point, but Alonso is still a very good driver in my eyes, but he's in a very shit car from what we're seeing at the moment, but we hope not. I would again give him time, but I do think he might have been laid off a little bit because Bottas didn't get points.
Yeah, and I think yeah, Bottas, both second drivers really for Red Bull and Mercedes missed out on helping their teams past the other. And I think that's one thing that Christian Horner said after the race, is that we could have got extra points over Mercedes this weekend, and annoyingly we missed out on it. And obviously Toto Wolff said it the other way as well. So yeah, missed opportunities for both. I'll go on to Bottas in a minute, but I want to mention Lando Norris, because finishing in third place, another podium for McLaren, another podium for Norris. 15 points. He's third in the championship now. McLaren are looking good. They were okay, good, decent enough in Bahrain, and obviously they were really good in qualifying in Imola as well. Lando Norris could have been on the front row if it hadn't been for track limits. But Norris in general, he's gone up a gear, hasn't he, for this season?
I see what he did there. Yeah, I feel like it's more of the same from last year though, because I feel like last year was the Norris we hadn't seen yet. And I feel like he's been that consistent. He's done it again this year,
yeah.
Which is, I mean, look, I don't think the Sainz swap with Ricciardo really meant anything to him. He would just, I'm sure the right driver just focuses on himself and just does his bit for the team. So I think he welcomes Ricciardo, but then when it comes to the track, he just needs to do his job. And he's, him getting podium, especially when there was a long time to go, I thought, in that race when he was in the podium. Yes, he got overtaken by Hamilton, but there's no shame.
No.
Again, the Mercedes, there's no shame to go behind a Mercedes, and Hamilton's just got the edge over every driver on the circuit in my eyes. He'll beat any driver on the day. So I think for him to hold on to it, I think that's great, because Charles Leclerc got fourth, and, they should look at Ferrari as their main rivals this season, and Ferrari aren't in the best of times at the moment, and if McLaren can get third at least, then it's another great championship under Zach Brown.
Absolutely, I think McLaren and Ferrari is going to be a battle this season. But you say that, obviously, fantastic weekend for Lando Norris. Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo finishes in 6th place, so again, double points for the team. But in between both Norris and Ricciardo are the two Ferraris, so actually a really good weekend at one of their home circuits at Imola. Shame there wasn't any fans, obviously. There was some in their balconies around the track, but not actually in the stands, as it were. But yeah, Leclerc 4th, Carlos Sainz 5th. Sainz obviously struggled in qualifying. I think he finished in 11th place on Saturday, so a good performance by Sainz to get into the sort of top half of the points. But yeah, 4th and 5th for Ferrari is actually not a bad result for them.
I think as well, to do it so early on in the season, if you do it late on in the season, it's kind of the whole thing of, well, you've turned up a bit too late, but that might just give them a bit of a promise for the season.
Yeah, not a great weekend for Alpine, or Alpine, however you want to say it. I know they get 9th and 10th in the end, so 3 points overall, but with the big bosses of Renault at the race this weekend, they're sort of going backwards again, aren't they? I mean, I know we're only 2 races in, but it's, when Fernando Alonso's there, and we said this before the season started, it only takes a few races, if they're not going well, for Fernando Alonso to sort of not be in his best mood in terms of what he can be like on the radio. So yeah, they haven't got long really to really pick this pace up, have they?
I wouldn't be surprised if this was to be his last season. It's like a what if kind of year for him, where it's like, what if I just give F1 one more go?
Yeah.
You join a team that you used to be with, and then you realise, no, not what I hoped for. Which he's got nothing to lose, has he, Fernando? Again, 2 races gone, but it's always that second race always gives you that consistency of where each team's going straight away for the season.
Yeah, and Sebastian Vettel as well, is that in the same category sort of thing as Fernando? Would you put Vettel in the same thing, that maybe it's just a year and he changes his mind? Or
I think Vettel's past it. I don't think he's a racer anymore. I don't see the difference between a normal driver and a racer with Vettel anymore. I feel like he's just there to fill up the lineup. And I said this last year when he was at Ferrari, because when he was having those 1 or 2 championship battles with Hamilton until the season got too long for Ferrari in my eyes, where Hamilton and Mercedes could do it week in, week out, and then the gap would get bigger. And I don't think Vettel's been the same since that Canada race, when he probably should have won the race, and then he obviously got 2nd or 3rd or whatever, and then went up to the cars where they park next to the numbers, and he moved the number 1 to his car in protest of the decision making from the race controls. So I don't think he's been the same ever since. I still think he enjoys his F1 and all that, because I mean at the end of the day it's a very nice wage and you're getting paid to drive cars, and Aston Martin is a young new team with the new name and all that, with a young driver who will ask for his advice and expertise in racing. So I just feel for Vettel it's just a step back and to help a team, and that's it. And sadly, I hope I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel from what I've seen from Vettel. I don't think he's been the same in the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, I think again it's sort of highlighted that Lance Stroll. I mean, you know, he has been at the team longer, so Vettel coming in, you know, he's obviously had a few months to get used to everything. But Lance Stroll seems to be actually performing in that car reasonably well. He's getting in the points, got in the points in Bahrain. I think it was only 1 point, but this time round he finishes 8th with an extra 4. So I don't want to say he's carrying the team at the minute, but it is that Vettel is still getting used to the team, or maybe struggling with some things that the Aston Martin does differently to Ferrari. But again, he struggled last year in the Ferrari, so yeah, I think it is showing sort of difficult signs for Sebastian Vettel at the minute. But Lance Stroll finishes 8th, Pierre Gasly 7th. Another decent result for Lance Stroll. Is he improving in your eyes?
Yeah.
Is he impressing you a bit more? Because obviously we had the same sort of ideas of Lance Stroll when he first came in.
Yeah, I think he's the same as Lando Norris for me, where he's carrying on from last year.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, in all fairness, it was up until last season where you and I would be, like many fans, would kind of not give him the credit, because we look at him and think, well, he's come from a rich family, his dad bought the team, and obviously the moment he bought the team and the opportunity came, he got him the seat. Which, look, I mean, we've got to remember, Lance Stroll got a podium in Azerbaijan, didn't he, once?
For Williams,
For Williams. So, you know, there is moments like that which does make you think maybe Lance Stroll isn't a bad driver. And I think he's proving to us, he's definitely proving it to me, because I have criticised him, that in the last 8 months, I'd say, that he's actually becoming a solid driver.
Pole in Turkey. Third
oh
place,
yeah, I forgot about that.
Third place in Sakir, I want to say as well, because it was 2 racing points.
Yeah, because Ocon got second. Yeah.
So again, like I said, you've highlighted his podium in Williams, but I think, like you said, in this last 12 months, again, I think he's took it on to a new level. So yeah, Lance Stroll is impressing everybody, and it's good to see. But yeah, I'll go through the rest. Kimi Raikkonen 13th, Antonio Giovinazzi 14th. Not the best day in the end for Alfa Romeo. Vettel 15th. And then we've got 2 laps down, these were, in terms of the Hasses. Mick Schumacher obviously had a spin on the start-finish straight where he lost his front wing, which wasn't the best thing, and he obviously had to go back round, because you mentioned it on the live stream. I forgot that he had to keep going round because the pit lane was closed at that point. So he had to keep going round, and that.
Why did they close the pit lane for that exactly?
I can't remember what the actual reasoning for. It wasn't under the red flag. It was before that. There was a safety car for, was it Latifi? But I can't remember.
I think it might have been Latifi.
But I don't know why the pit lane was closed for that. I can't remember. But yeah, not great for. But we know they're going to be at the back every race. But 2 laps down, Mick Schumacher still manages to beat his teammate of Nikita Mazepin, who had a tussle with Latifi on the first lap, which saw. Obviously Latifi go out. So I mean, I'll gloss over the Hasses because we know where they're going to be. But in terms of, we'll go to Russell and Bottas now. But in terms of Latifi first, that Williams car looked really strong for this race weekend, and neither of them finished at all. Not even in the points. They just didn't finish. So
I really hoped for George Russell that he would have got over last year's Imola when he was behind that safety car and then just all of a sudden lost the grip, car gone, race over.
Yeah.
Which he took really badly, because it was like watching Mika Hakkinen come out the car when he was fighting in '99 for the championship against Schumacher, just sitting there for ages thinking, I've blown it. So I'm gutted for Russell just because of that. I really, really am. So, I mean, the incident, I still think it's 50-50. I can't decide whose fault it is, but Russell had to overtake him because Bottas was too slow.
Yeah.
In a way, as in, look, you're going down a straight, you're creeping up to him, which I think must have been a big shock to the team and Russell, thinking, hang on a minute, we're overtaking a Mercedes here, what's going on? but he had to take the chance. It's Russell. He's proven in a Mercedes he can overtake Bottas in Sakhir. And I just think for Russell, he's thinking, no, I'm going to do this because our team could get in the points for once. I mean, how many more opportunities are they going to get this year of getting in the points? I can't tell you. I don't know. But I'm sure the team with the history that they've had in the last few years, they're not going to think it's going to happen every race because they need to prove something. And they are slowly proving. I mean, look what they did in qualifying. They made it to Q2, both of them.
Both, yeah.
You know, not just Russell. I think when you're getting Latifi through it as well, you're getting there. There's progress. And I think, you know, even if Williams finished 9th out of the 10th in the Constructors' Championship this season, it's better than last place, and it's a bit more money made as well. Let's not forget there's a prize money for each place. So I think going back to Russell, it's interesting to see, but I still think Mercedes need to pick him up whenever they do get a seat available.
Interestingly, he did put a post out on the day after, saying yesterday wasn't my proudest day. I knew it would be one of the best opportunities to score points this season, as Jamie just said. When those points matter as much as they do right now, sometimes you take risks. It didn't pay off, and I have to take responsibility for that. Having had time to reflect on what happened afterwards, I know I should have handled the whole situation better. Emotions can run high in the heat of the moment, and yesterday mine got the better of me. I apologise to Valtteri, to my team, and to anyone who felt let down by my actions. That's not who I am, and I expect more from myself. As others know, they expect more from me as well. I've learned tough lessons this weekend and will come out a better driver and a better person for the experience. And then he goes on to say we'll focus on in terms of Portugal. So he's come out and said, you know, obviously I apologise for the team, but you know there were points there, as you've mentioned, and you have to take them risks. But I think he's more going on to the point that after he came out of the car, everyone felt he was going over to check on Bottas, see if he was okay, but you know he went in on him, didn't he?
Yeah, it's a heat at the moment though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, he's just gone through quite a big moment, and he's straight away prioritising his team and gone, we've just missed out on some big points to get us a bit further up. So I can understand that. It didn't look good, because I was telling you when the watch along was happening, I was like, oh, you know, bless Russell. I thought he's helping him get out, or he's just saying I'm sorry, or you know, hope you're all right. But no, it wasn't. It was, we don't know what he said. There was no mics or anything to pick it up.
Bottas gave him the bird.
Well, what's the bird? Did he give him that?
Yeah.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He said when they asked Bottas, he was like, I didn't hear him. I didn't hear what he said. But then when he smacked him on his racing helmet, didn't he? Russell, when he left him, and while he did that, Bottas gave him the middle finger. So even though he didn't hear him, I guess you can understand from his body language saying stuff to him while Russell wasn't be annoyed. Very happy. So
if I was Bottas, that would pee me off. That would. Because it is kind of like a situation of, can I just get out my car, please? You know,
and you could see he was winded because he was sitting down, wasn't he? He was kneeling down for 5 minutes after the incident. They were showing it, but he was obviously had a big
and it's a crash.
Yeah, it was a big impact, wasn't it?
But I mean, they've had crashes, all of them. But you know, a crash is a crash. It's still a shock to the system. I think it's just how prepared you get for it. But again, how can you predict when a crash is coming and how it's going to end? I mean, we saw Alonso in Melbourne with that McLaren crash, which didn't look too bad, but then the moment he got out of the car, he looked shaken, and this is one of the greatest drivers of all time who's used to risk and used to, you know, his life being on the line. Yeah. So, I didn't like that from Russell, and I think he's got to, even though he meant it, well, I don't know if he meant it, as I say, heat at the moment, I just think sometimes when the cameras are focusing on you, don't, just leave him, you know. Just walk away, make sure that... Because the racing stewards, I felt sorry for them because they're all there, you know, basically tell them, get off the track, come on, you know, the drivers are still coming past. So I do think Russell was being very unprofessional, but I love him as a driver, and I just think he needs to grow up a little bit and realise that he's the one without the experience. So he's getting there, but he needs to make sure he doesn't burn bridges, because Mercedes should be his next team.
At one point I do want to make, before I obviously finish that, was that the DRS was open for George Russell, and it was still a wet circuit. So do you think the DRS should have been open at that point? Because obviously he got a jump on him with that extra speed, and then obviously had to make the manoeuvre because he was faster than Bottas. So at that point, did you think the DRS maybe shouldn't have been on, or?
Yeah, probably not, to be honest.
Because it was still wet driving on intermediates, I think, at that point.
Well, it's dangerous, isn't it, at the end of the day? It's if that is the case, and that's why it happened, because of DRS, then yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just go through the remaining... obviously, we've gone through the actual driving order. I'll go through the stand-ins, but before we finish, I want to quickly point out the Miami Grand Prix. So I'll literally go through the Constructors. Mercedes still top of the Constructors' Championship with 2 races gone on 60 points. Red Bull just behind on 53. McLaren in 3rd place with 41. Ferrari with 34 in 4th. And then it goes AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Williams and Haas. Alfa Romeo, Williams and Haas all don't have any points at the moment. And then if we look at the actual driver standings, like we mentioned earlier, Lewis Hamilton is top with 2 races down, but only 1 point ahead of Max Verstappen. Let's hope this continues throughout the season. Lando Norris is in 3rd place with 27, Charles Leclerc in 4th, and then you've got Valtteri Bottas in 5th with only 16 points. There's a huge gap already between him and his teammate with that DNF in Imola. And then Carlos Sainz 6th, Daniel Ricciardo 7th, Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull is in 8th with 10 points. And then Gasly 9th and Lance Stroll 10th. So yeah, they're the sort of driver standings at the minute. But yeah, quickly, like I said, Jamie, I want to mention the Miami Grand Prix. Now, obviously, it was announced during the Imola weekends that we would be going to Miami in 2022. If we're actually going is another point, but I'd love to go to the Miami Grand Prix. I
hope the restrictions are gone by then.
Yeah, it will be immense. It's around the NFL stadium, I think, that it's going to be driving around the circuit.
The Dolphin Stadium,
Miami Dolphin Stadium. Seeing the track, looks good. It doesn't look like one of them that's going to be just straights, like the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. That's not making me interested at all.
No.
But the Miami Grand Prix looks good, and another race in the US, which I think obviously that they want.
It's 3 straights, isn't it? If I can remember.
Yes, I'll see if I can get it up while we're looking at it. But yeah, in terms of it being announced, a good one, do you think? Because obviously we've been talking about a second race in the Americas.
It's been talked about for a few years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of... I completely forgot about the Miami Grand Prix plans. I honestly thought it was like the New Jersey one, which was the plans have just gone in the bin and we'll never talk about it again.
Yeah.
So when I think I got it in an email, like to the newsletter or something, and then it just turned up on my phone. I was like, oh, Miami's coming to F1, but we had that with Vietnam where I had that same email. Vietnam's going to happen, and it's like, no.
We never even got.
We never got one, did we? Yeah. Poor pandemic ruined it, and it's probably killed it as well.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think.
But I tell you what, there must be a long list of races that were supposed to happen, but didn't come to plan at the end. So yeah, I'm for it. I think, as I said before, they were planning on 2 races for a long time in the Americas, and look, I think Liberty's one of their biggest tasks is to get F1 popular in America, hence why I think they did this Netflix series to get, which has helped Netflix because there are a lot more people who I speak to now that didn't follow F1 before Drive to Survive existed. But anyway, back to Miami. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It's for me, it's probably just another event. You know, for a lot of people are going to say yes to Miami in terms of the drivers, the staff, and the people who go around all the circuits. They're going to love it. So I think it's great for F1, and as I said, Liberty want to get it more known in the Americas, I'd imagine.
I want to just finalise with this point really, and that's that Imola as a whole, is this not a track that we need to be keeping on the calendar full stop? We should happily take two Italian races, because I think Monza itself is a great racetrack to go to. I'd love to go to What's a Race at Monza, but I also think Imola, over the last 2 seasons, with them coming back last year as well, as like a backup track, has provided some great action. So surely F1 must be looking at it and thinking maybe we keep Imola on the grid going forward.
Well, do they have a plan for Imola? Is it just
again,
while we're in COVID?
Yeah, again, I think it was just that maybe, during this time, Imola was another track that they could use. Again, with Portugal, I think both tracks were free, so they've used them, because obviously they're in Europe again. Would you be happy to have Imola back next season as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I definitely would. But I don't think it will be. sadly.
No, sadly, I don't think so either. But it has brought great entertainment. Another one, as we finish this, is Portugal next race as well. Another one that's been brought back to sort of help out in terms of the calendar this year. I think that one's replaced China altogether. I think that was when China was meant to be in. I don't think China's in it this year at all, is it? Or have I missed?
No, I don't think it is it?
China might have missed out again, or been, obviously said that they can't do it again. So, Portugal, another decent-ish race last year. I think Lewis Hamilton won that one, if I remember rightly.
Which one does he not win?
Yeah, well, I know, exactly. But you looking forward to, obviously, the Portuguese Grand Prix. I mean, like I said, if we could just go back quickly to Verstappen and Hamilton, it has brought everything closer. So, obviously, 1 point away. Obviously, we didn't see that much of a battle this time round because, obviously, Hamilton had that incident and Max Verstappen, sort of pulled away, as it were. Should we hope for another battle between the two of them at Portugal?
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if it's them two in the top two in qualifying, and then let's see how it goes, because it would be interesting if Verstappen wins this one, I think. But also, what if someone else wins it, not them two?
Cheeky Perez win.
Who knows? It'd be, we've had our first two races won by two different drivers. It would be nice to see a third different driver at least.
So that was the Imola Grand Prix. Obviously, like I said, the Portuguese Grand Prix at Portimao is next on the calendar. That's not this weekend coming, but the weekend after. And then I think it is a double header. So we've obviously got the Portuguese Grand Prix, and then we're back to Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix a week after that as well. So it'll be the first double header of the F1 season. Thank you very much for listening to the Pole Position podcast. Like I said, it can be viewed on YouTube as well as on Apple Podcasts as well. Don't forget, obviously, with myself and Jamie Davies and a couple of others as well, we will be doing race watch-alongs throughout the season on Let's Talk Sports, so go and check that out as well. Thank you very much for Jamie for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for obviously watching. Please and listening. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. That really does mean a lot. And we will see you all in the next one. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye.
I'll leave that bye on as well.